Man, oh man, oh man. What a night. What a moment. What a group of players. What a performance over in Cincinnati. Cero. The United States men's national team defeat our biggest rivals in Mexico in World Cup qualifiers. We retain that 3 points at home. What a performance. I'm still a little shook right now, so I'm still trying to breathe it in, man. I mean, not only did we manage to get the Cero scoreline, but we did it in a fashion that I've never seen the United States play against Mexico in. I mean, we came out and we took it to them. Not only did we take it to them, but we saw Mexico, a team that I've almost exclusively seen maintain possession, look to have the ball as much as possible, look to play it out of the back. I saw them kicking long balls all night. I mean, just a complete, like, everything you would have wanted to see in this game, I think we saw it and then some. I mean, starting with that starting lineup, it was the starting lineup I think a lot of us wanted to see, maybe minus Joe Scally. I think that was the player that everyone was kind of like, maybe he's in, maybe he's out, but everyone else, I mean, there was that big concern that maybe Sebastian Lletget starts, maybe Paul Arriola starts, but neither of them start. We see Musa, we see Weah, and both players end up having an absolute phenomenal night. As far as Mexico goes, I mean, we discussed at length in the pregame show the issues with the Mexican national team. It was going to be the age, it was going to be the athletic ability, and it was going to be keeping up with the athleticism of the American players. And we saw that. We saw that in the first half especially, where, you know, the U.S. was all over Mexico early on. But there were some brief moments where Edson Alvarez and Hector Herrera were able to kind of shake off defenders and kind of hit a wonderful ball to put Mexico in position. So it was kind of that back and forth early on where, you know, was it going to be El Tree that came away with the experience to get an early one past us and be able to sit back, or was the U.S. going to be able to withstand that? We end up getting that stalemate at halftime, and then in the second half, I mean, it was all United States. I kind of took notes all game, watching to see the scores, and man, oh man, I've never seen a U.S. team dominate a Mexican senior team like that. And boy, I mean, up and down, we dominated everything, including the substitutions. I mean, when was the last time you saw a Mexican team just not have somebody able to come in and change the game? They bring in Funes Mori late on. He's not able to do anything. On the flip side, the U.S. is able to bring in Christian Pulisic, and yeah, so we got a donation early on from Preston Croshaw. El Tree lost 3 times. Yeah, I mean, what a year it's been. I think in that first win in the Nations League, it was kind of we might have won against the run of play there. We got some opportunities. We got that penalty call. We got some set piece goals. The game in the Gold Cup was kind of an aberration as well, but this one was truly that coming out party for the U.S. men's national team. A game where we saw Ricardo Pepi, 18 years old, Yunus Musa, 18 years old, both have tremendous games. I kind of want to go through some of the notes that I have. Oh, man. Shout out to Alex Woodruff, man. I literally started crying. 3 wins in a row against Mexico. I'm so happy. Yeah, I think the fan base is elated right now. I mean, what a performance. It wasn't one of those where we got a result, but like something we got kind of lucky. No, we had a tremendous performance. We created a lot of chances. We denied Mexico chances. I think whenever I go through kind of the notes that I have written down, you'll see that Mexico got some chances early on, but after that, it was all USA. So let's kind of go through it right now. So I have in the 17th minute, Lozano had a break that Stefan saved. I forget who played that ball into Lozano, but it was an excellent ball in behind, and it was kind of nervy. We saw DeAndre Yedlin chase down Lozano in that moment, and I think that was kind of – we've seen a few moments where, you know, when DeAndre Yedlin first hit the scene, he was the fastest man on the planet, but, you know, we saw him lose a foot race to Alphonso Davies against Canada, and we saw him lose one to Lozano, so that just goes to show, you know, Yedlin not quite the speed that he's always had, but luckily he's able to put enough pressure on Lozano, kind of force a shot that Stefan still had to make a good save. I mean, it was low and hard, and Stefan had to get that hand down. Kudos to Zach Stefan, tremendous game. He made some really nice passes out of the back too, so we did see that distribution. I mean, tremendous, and yeah. Juan Carlos says, can we talk about Walker Zimmerman with the heart eyes? Like, that's another player that a lot of fans coming into the game didn't want to see starting. There were some people in the fan base that just didn't like Walker Zimmerman at all. I thought Walker Zimmerman was in the game to win the aerial battle. Like, that's what I was mainly expecting from him, and I'm not sure that he lost an aerial duel all night. I thought him in possession and his passing was not something that I was even worried about, because it wasn't something that necessarily we needed to win the game. And I think over and over again we saw Mexico hit long balls up to Jimenez, and Zimmerman just won everything back there, and that was so important for us. Fantastic game from Walker Zimmerman as far as in the air. Yeah, with the ball at his feet, you could see that he doesn't have the quality of like a John Brooks, and there was some iffy moments in possession, but with the ball in the air, what a stud. So right after that that opportunity from Lozano, at the 30th minute, Lozano plays a back post ball to Tecatito. I think this was the moment where Hector Herrera shrugged off Tyler Adams in the midfield. And you know, you see that old veteran versus the young upstart player in Tyler Adams. I think that's 31 versus 32 years old right there. I think Tyler Adams won the majority of those duels, but in the one moment Herrera was able to shake him off and find some space. You see the quality that Ache has on the ball, and he finds Lozano out wide. Lozano, I think, turns Yedlin inside and finds Tecatito on the back post. Luckily, Tecatito put it wide, so it wasn't a scoring opportunity or it wasn't a shot on goal, but it was the second opportunity for Mexico. And at that point in the game, I think the U.S. was really pressuring Mexico a lot, but we saw that if Edson Alvarez and Hector Herrera are able to create space, and if they're able to get it up on to Lozano, who's up against Yedlin, I think Lozano won that battle fairly decisively, and who wouldn't have backed Lozano to win that battle? One of the better players in CONCACAF. So Mexico they showed some danger, but I think as the game wore on, we start to see that age of that Mexican team. My goodness, what a game. So in the 37th minute, we see the first real opportunity from the U.S. It was a nice moment. In the 37th minute, Miles Robinson plays a ball over the top to Anthony Robinson, who Anthony Robinson kind of ate Chaka Rodriguez alive all night. Anthony Robinson plays an early ball across to Pepe, who holds up and finds Musa. Musa's shot goes wide. It was the first real opportunity from the U.S. We've seen a few times where Yunus Musa's had opportunities to shoot, and that's not really his game. Thought Yunus Musa had a tremendous game, but even when playing for Valencia, we see that finishing is not quite his thing, and we saw it in that moment as well. But it was that first moment where the U.S.'s speed and pressure created an opportunity, and it showed that the U.S. can create some opportunities in this game. And not long after, Musa finds Anthony Robinson at the back post, and Anthony Robinson's header goes wide. This was a moment in possession where the U.S. was like pinging really nice passes together. Weston, McKennie, and Tim Weah particularly on that right side combining really well. Brendan Aronson was doing a lot of work, kind of getting all over the place, winning balls. They find Musa at kind of that elbow of the box, and he hits a back post ball to Anthony Robinson, and it goes wide. But just another moment. They started to build in that second half. Mexico had some opportunities early on, but as the game wore on, the U.S. just started stacking up chance after chance after chance. And as we headed into halftime, it was one of those things where the U.S. just needed a little bit of quality, a little bit of composure in front of goal, and it looked like we were knocking on that door. And at the same time, Mexico was losing more and more of those duels. They were not able to get the ball to their midfielders. Their midfielders didn't have time and space on the ball, and their front line was just really struggling. I mean, the U.S. just won every headed ball and won every second ball, and that dangerous front line just really struggled to put any pressure on the U.S. I mean, Juan Carlos, I feel like this game was a lot more dominant by the U.S. compared to the last two, showing how much potential they have. I think that says two things. I mean, first of all, it shows the potential for the U.S. moving forward. Absolutely. Remember, this is a team that didn't start Christian Pulisic, doesn't have Gio Reyna. We don't really know what's going on for second striker. We're missing Serginho Dest. We're missing, it's a self-inflicted wound, but we're missing John Brooks. I think Gianluca Busio is going to become a bigger part of this team moving forward. Chris Richards is going to have a bigger role moving forward. There's a lot of potential and opportunity with this U.S. team. And on the flip side, you look at a Mexico squad that's got a lot of older players and doesn't have guys behind them with the same quality that are going to come in and be able to really contest the U.S. So for me, this was like that last moment where Mexico was going to be able to win a game against the U.S. at home, and they weren't able to do it. We'll see moving forward what that game at Azteca looks like. I'm sure the Mexican fans are really going to want the Mexican team to win that game because they have not won a game against the U.S. in quite some time now, but we'll see kind of what happens. Maybe both teams will qualify at that point, and it won't be as intense. I don't know. We'll see. But a wonderful moment in time for the U.S. fans. So after halftime, Tim Weah really starts to operate on that right flank. I think in the first half, Weah was getting that ball, and he put a few balls in that they weren't very dangerous, but Weah was getting the better of Gallardo out there. But in that second half, Weah really started to pour it on, and it seemed like the U.S. was getting closer and closer. So in the 48th minute, Weah finds McKinney, who stings Memo's hands with a shot. Just one of the cleaner opportunities for the U.S. up to that point. Weston has just been, absolutely immense. If you've been watching Weston at Juventus, you know that he is absolutely all over the field. He's a tremendous ball winner in the midfield, but once he gets into the box on the offensive side, he is such a threat. We saw that later in the game, and we'll get there. But Weston McKennie, take a bow, young man. That was an absolute dominant performance in the midfield. In a midfield with some very talented Mexican midfielders, Weston McKennie showed himself to be a cut above. Just an absolute phenomenal game from West. And in the 57th minute, we saw this combination play where McKinney gets it out to Weah in that right flank again. Weah puts a cross in to Brendan Aronson, who had an opportunity at goal, but he really scuffed the shot. I thought Aronson, his finishing was not there tonight. He was not very clean in the final third. His passing and his finishing just weren't quite there. We always see that effort from Brendan Aronson, and he's always fantastic in the press and just never stops running. So he's never a bad player to have on the field, but not quite his game for the U.S. tonight. And I want to take a minute to recognize Robert Pesaturo, who says, yes, Alvarez is really good. And yeah, Edson Alvarez is a fantastic player. My goodness. He's rising to the point where he's one of the absolute top players in CONCACAF. And I think we all saw that he's playing at Ajax right now. He's playing really well, but there's got to be a top five. There's got to be like a top Champions League team out there that's going to want the services of Edson Alvarez. What a player. So moving right along, in the 59th minute, the U.S. is starting to put together chance after chance, and it was so fun to see because I don't know how many El Tri versus U.S. games you've seen in the past, but so often Mexico is able to come at the U.S. in just waves and waves and waves. They'll have a chance, they'll put a cross in, and then their midfield will recover the ball. They kind of ping it around for a little while, then they create another chance, and they create another chance. And in this game, it was the exact opposite. The U.S. would create a chance, our midfield would win it back, we'd swing it around, we'd create another chance. It looked like a total role reversal where the U.S. was performing the way Mexico normally performs, and Mexico was performing the way the U.S. normally performs. But I will say, it looked like the Mexican players, especially Lozano and Jimenez, Tecatito, Herrera, Edson Alvarez, did possess a little bit more class and quality and ability to hit a final ball than most of the U.S. players tonight. But they were not able to keep up with the pace and the athleticism and the intensity of the Americans. And whenever they were put in positions to counterattack, they couldn't counterattack with the ferocity that we saw the Americans counterattack with. My goodness. So in the 59th minute, Miles Robinson elbows Chaco Rodriguez right in the face. I thought that was a nice moment, especially foreshadowing a little bit later when Chaco Rodriguez hand rakes Brendan Aronson. So maybe him being a little bit overly aggressive towards Brendan Aronson was in part because Miles Robinson really put his elbow in his mouth. Miles Robinson was not carded. Well, was he carded? Was that the foul where he was carded? I don't remember. But he got that card in the second half that he really shouldn't have got, and it came back to bite him late in the game. But hey, Miles Robinson, another tremendous game from him. It's disappointing that we're not gonna have Robinson against Jamaica. But what a fantastic player we found in Miles Robinson. I mean a center back that I'm comfortable having on the field at all times. It does loom large though, that decision to not bring John Brooks on this trip whenever Miles Robinson gets a red card and is not going to be in that Jamaica game. That is a little bit foreshadowing, a little bit disappointing, but potentially we'll see Walker Zimmerman with Chris Richards, give Chris Richards an opportunity to play, get him that start. Maybe that'll be a good thing for him and for the U.S. squad going forward. In the 68th minute, we get that moment we've been waiting for. Christian Pulisic comes in for Brendan Aronson, the man from Hershey, Pennsylvania. The golden boy comes in, and as soon as he comes in, you could feel that jolt from the crowd. You could feel that boost in the players, that little bit of confidence. Players just, it seemed like the crispness in the final third just picked up a notch, and it came through, because not long after that, Tim Weah finds himself in the right channel where he's been skinning Mexico alive all night. And in a game where the U.S. just needed that little bit extra quality, that little bit of clinicalness in the final third, we find the man for the hour. Christian Pulisic comes in and he attacks the near post. He makes a near post run, and he finds something that he's probably never found in the history of his professional career. He finds a center back that's the same size as him. Mexico had two of the shortest center backs I've ever seen start in an international game. I think, Vasquez is listed at about 6 foot, and Cata Dominguez is listed at about 5'9". I think it was Dominguez on Pulisic, because Dominguez absolutely got bodied. How many times have you seen Christian Pulisic body a center back? Not often, but here it was for this game. And we saw a Christian Pulisic that we haven't seen in a long time. We've been seeing Christian Pulisic, the playmaker for the U.S., but we got to see Christian Pulisic, the goal scorer. I think they put up a stat during the game that Christian has something like 16 goals in 36 games for the U.S., which is freaking ridiculous. And the fact that the U.S. has been struggling to score lately, and the fact that Christian Pulisic hasn't been scoring lately, I don't think those things are that far apart. The fact that Christian Pulisic's not putting himself in positions to score goals previously is a big reason why the U.S. is scoring goals. In this moment, Christian Pulisic makes that run into the box, beats the Mexican center back to the ball, puts in that header, and it's 1-0 U.S. And at that moment, I mean, you could feel that absolute wave rush over the field. You could see the American players kind of pick up and the Mexican players kind of slump down, because it was in that moment where everyone kind of realized that Mexico, who was kind of playing reserved for the most part, not really getting many men forward, not pouring numbers into the attack, it was that moment where we realized that Mexico was going to have to open up and go with this U.S. attack, and whenever they did that, it was going to leave holes and opportunities for America to exploit, and we did see that in the second half. Oh, my goodness. We got some Mexican fans in the chat. Best players of our nation, and yet we didn't do anything good. Congrats to y'all in your recruitment, but I just don't understand what happened to us. I am pissed off on how SHIT we played. And Anima Master, yeah, I think you guys just are lacking some quality right now. I think the Mexican team is in a position where a lot of the better players are up there in age. We didn't even see Andres Guardado in this game, and I think for good reason. At 35 years old, we saw him get overrun against Canada. Mexico just, Hector Herrera still has it in his feet, but as far as his legs, as far as his ability to be mobile, that part of his game isn't there right now. And then you bring in a guy like Luis Romo, who's supposed to be able to cover a little bit more space, and he just didn't have the quality that the rest of the midfielders on the field had. And so we saw Tyler Adams, Weston McKinney, and Yunus Musa really boss that midfield, really run circles around that Mexican midfield. Even though Mexico had that fantastic. Whoa! I just hit like a Midwest accent. I'm from Louisiana. I shouldn't be talking like fantastic. So even though Mexico has that fantastic front three, they didn't have the midfield that was able to connect balls to them, and the U.S. never gave the center backs an opportunity to ping balls over the top. I mean, that was another big part of why Mexico looked so poor. The defense wasn't very good. I think the top 3 or 4 center backs were not available for this game, and we saw Cata Dominguez, I just don't think was up to this level, and Johan Vasquez, who is sitting on his 3rd cap, and was played on. I believe he was played on the left, and he's right-footed, so he was kind of inverted, and he was uncomfortable with that all night. So not a good look for the Mexico defense. Let's see. I want to highlight this one. Tringo, I don't know how to say your name. Did the U.S. men's national team win? Yes, they did. Tree, they did in fact win. So let's move on. Christian Pulisic just scored a goal in the 82nd minute. Mexico make their change. They take off Edson Alvarez and bring in Funes Mori. Really surprised that Mexico took off their best player on the field in Edson Alvarez and brought in Funes Mori. Funes Mori kind of did absolutely nothing out there. Funes Mori is supposed to be, Jimenez and Funes Mori are supposed to be great in the air, but I think that Robinson and Walker Zimmerman dominated the air on that U.S. back line all night. I didn't see them really create anything with balls over the top. So, I mean, great night from the U.S. defense. And then in the 84th, well, we see like that classic Weston McKinney moment where kind of chaos happens. Ferreira's in the game. He's kind of bouncing the ball around. McKinney's just being a nuisance. And then, it just pops open to McKinney in open space. And once again, McKinney in front of the goal has been absolutely electric lately, and he slots it to the right of Memo Ochoa, who can do absolutely nothing about it. Probably that moment where we really saw Mexico's depth at center back get exposed. If they have Nestor Araujo or Hector Moreno or whoever else out there, Cesar Montes, maybe that opportunity doesn't happen for Weston McKennie, but they were out there. So I think the 2 goals that the U.S. scored really were because of that deficiency that Mexico had in their center backs. But, the U.S. sees that opportunity, and they did what they had to do, and they walk out with that 2-0. In the 89th minute, we get that Miles Robinson red card. Disappointing moment because that means we'll be without Miles Robinson heading into Jamaica. But I think the U.S. still has a big opportunity to win that game in Jamaica. Also, I believe Weston McKinney picked up a yellow card, so he won't be available. I'm pretty sure that means Weston's not going to be available for that second game. Somebody can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty positive Weston was coming in with a yellow. So we could be seeing potentially Gianluca Busio against Jamaica. I know Greg Berhalter in his press conference said Gianluca was on the cusp of the first team, so maybe we'll hold him to that and see if he starts. If not, I think the U.S. still has every opportunity to win that game. Although Jamaica's a lot better team than the one that we saw in Austin, Texas a few weeks ago, and they will be playing at home, so it will be difficult. But who cares about that right now? I think the important thing is the U.S. What a tremendous and decisive victory against Mexico. That moment that we've been talking for years in the U.S. men's national team circle. When are we going to be able to play a game where we really take it to Mexico and really play them and really command the game and command the ball? And this was that moment for us. All around, a tremendous night. I can't really pick up on anything to be disappointed about in this game outside of the cards. Charles Workman says, what was the key to winning so many balls in the midfield in your opinion, Sam? I think it's just the mobility of the players, the mobility and the range of that midfield. We had a midfield that consisted of, I think, 2 22-year-olds and an 18-year-old. And Mexico has Edson Alvarez, who's a tremendous player, but he's not exactly a space eater. Hector Herrera, who's 31 years old and is just not very mobile and is not playing for Atletico Madrid right now. And Luis Romo, who's an okay player, but I don't think he's the pedigree of the other 2 that I just mentioned. So the speed and the tenacity and the ball-winning ability of the Americans really showed in that, and we were able to dominate that midfield, recycle possession, and create chance after chance after chance. Brown Unboxing says Weston is out. Yeah, I thought so. So we're not going to have Weston McKinney in that next game. Whew. Yeah. I'm trying to read a few more comments right now. I'm about to wrap it up. Anima Master, a Nell Tree fan, says, it surprises me that 4 years ago the U.S. seemed to be on the brink of bad times when they lost to Trinidad. I guess karma is a bitch, isn't it? Anima continues to curse in the comment section, so kudos to you for keeping that up. I know it's got to be a frustrating night for you. But yeah, 4 years ago it was a down time for the U.S., and we really had to build for the future. And we saw that. We saw that the lineup turned over. A lot of the players that were involved in that Trinidad and Tobago game were not a part of the U.S. moving forward. We turned it over to the kids. There was a lot of growing pains in that. A lot of moments where we were frustrated whenever veterans started over some of the kids and stuff like that, and experience, and are they ready for the moment? And I think we saw that all that built up to this moment right here in Cincinnati, and the U.S. was really able to put it together. Mind you, with a team that lacked probably two of our best offensive stars. I mean, Christian Pulisic was on the bench and Gio Reyna wasn't coming in. So if both of those players are healthy, then Tim Weah and Brendan Aronson are not in this game. And Tim Weah was one of the stars of the game, one of the best attackers in this match for either side. I mean, things are looking good for the United States right now. Crowd was amazing, too, from GMT 9164. Yeah, absolutely, man. The crowd was fantastic. That stadium in Cincinnati is absolutely tremendous. I love the light shows that happen. I love that they sang that song to Ricardo Pepi throughout the game. That, hey, baby, hey, Pepe, I want to know will you score that goal. Like, that was great. A great atmosphere throughout the game. I mean, nothing to complain about there. And then whenever they scored the goal, whew. Connor McCabe says, hello, Sam. I watched the game with my mom tonight, and after both U.S. goals, I jumped up and down and celebrated like a little kid, and my mom smiled. My mom smiled. It made her happy just to see me as happy as I was. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. This game that we love so much just produces such magical moments. I'm not sure that, I do love football, like American football, and I love some other sports, but there's something about this game, soccer, the beautiful game, that produces moments that just make you absolutely explode. I think that there's all of us can name a couple of goals that we remember where we just absolutely lost our minds. And I think anytime the U.S. is playing in a big game and they get a goal, like I am losing my mind, absolutely. So I'm right there with you, Connor. The only difference between me and you is I really struggle to watch games with other people. I kind of like being by myself in a dark cave with like my phone hidden behind something and like all screens blacked out except for the game, so I can just focus. Whew, my goodness. Yeah, Robert Pesturo says, yeah, I don't think there's anything like it. A Snark says, Brendan Aronson is one of our three most important players, regardless of who is healthy. And I don't know about that. I think you're saying he's one of our three most important attackers, I would guess, because, I mean, you could name like Miles Robinson, Weston McKinney, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Tyler Adams as players that I would say are more important to the squad than Brendan Aronson. Maybe he's one of our three most important attackers, but I think Tim Weah has put together some really impressive performances lately. His cameo against Jamaica was great. His game against Costa Rica was great. He scored that goal. He gets the assist here. I mean, he ate Jesus Gallardo's lunch over and over and over again. He was such a deadly weapon. As the game wore on, his service into the box just got better and better, and we know that he can finish himself. I mean, Tim Weah is growing into a really, really dangerous attacker. So not to take anything away from Brendan Aronson, I'm just saying that we've got some really good players that are coming into the fold. And whenever Reyna's back and whenever Reyna and Pulisic are available, like the U.S. is going to be a really tough team in second halves whenever we're able to bring that talent onto the field. Can you imagine how the players feel right now and what's being said in that locker room from Cosmo Alonso? And yeah, I think that what a tremendous moment for the players, man. I mean, so many kids just, I mean, you especially like Christian Pulisic, man. Christian Pulisic has had so much pressure on him for so long, and he's probably fought really hard in rehab to get back in time for this game, and to see him on the field and come up big in that big moment. He's Christian Pulisic for the U.S., like, I'm not telling any secrets here. In the last few matches that he's been on the field, has just not been as influential as anybody wants him to be, and he's not scoring those goals. And, you could tell that he was very frustrated. So to see him get that big moment, I think is huge for him. See Zach Steffen back on the field and a big night for the U.S. I mean, just a lot of players had great games. I think it was a wonderful moment all the way around. David Morales says, the U.S. performed much better than I was expecting. Weah was killing it tonight, too. Yeah, he absolutely was. Another big game. Another big game from Tim Weah. And I think Brendan Aarons is playing really well, but Tim Weah is playing really well. It's hard for me to separate either two. Catherine Beatty says, Chaka Rodriguez is dirty. FIFA needs to review his eye claw. I mean, name a U.S.-Mexico game where there's not something that we want FIFA to review after the game. I mean, if it's not Herrera choking somebody or Guardado choking somebody, it's Chaka Rodriguez doing the hand rake. Taylor Twellman said during the game that starting in January, CONCACAF is going to be introducing replay, which is just bizarre, but at least we get replay in one form or fashion, and maybe moments like this will be erased from the game, which will be a good thing. Or on the flip side, he gets a red card like he deserved in that moment, and it's not quite as terrible. But we'll see moving forward when VAR gets instituted. Remember, the way that the officiating works in CONCACAF is you have an official from a federation outside of the two teams that are playing officiating the game. And I believe the only two federations that have VAR currently in CONCACAF are probably USA and Mexico. So whenever USA and Mexico are playing together, that means we're getting an official from a federation outside of those two leagues. So not only is an official from a smaller league, like maybe he's from the Costa Rican league, but also it's an official that's not had experience with VAR. So I can foresee some weird things happening with that as well. But, that's not neither here nor there. MJ Lozano says, proud of how the USMNT played. Do you think Greg will play Scally at all next game? I think he'll get some minutes if the U.S. are up. It was always going to be tough for Scally to see time in this game. He's only had, I believe, like 2 practices with the squad. So he was a healthy scratch in this game. He didn't even sit. He didn't even dress. So especially considering Miles Robinson and Weston McKinney are going to be serving red card substitutions, that means there's going to be opportunities for Scally to be on the bench, at least in that game. So he's likely going to dress. So if there's a moment to bring him in, hopefully will Greg bring him in. So big opportunity for that Jamaica game. It's going to be a big opportunity for 3 points. If the U.S. is able to get 6 points in this window, it's just a massive, massive opportunity to really solidify us on the road to that World Cup. Not only solidify us on the road to World Cup, but to potentially win the group, which would be just a tremendous, tremendous thing for this squad of such young players, man. Just really excited. I think you can tell by the tone of my voice that I'm just elated right now. Nicholas the Caged says, huge win. I'd like to see us play better from the get-go, but we just dominated Mexico throughout the entire second half. I'll take that any day. And Nicholas, I think the best opportunity Mexico had was going to be in that first half. I mean, they really had to come out and take it to us early, because as the game wore on, those older legs on the Mexican side were going to get tired a lot faster than the American legs were. And also the U.S. had the opportunity to bring in somebody like Christian Pulisic off the bench, and Mexico didn't have anybody like that to bring in. So Mexico was going to have to take it to the U.S. early. And after we withstood it, I mean, if you missed it, I kind of went through the timeline, but Mexico really created 2 quality chances in this game, and they were within the first half hour. After that, it was all U.S. Whew. Boys. I mean, boys and girls. There's girls in here too. This has been an absolute tremendous night for me, and my voice is starting to get hoarse just talking so much already. I'm about ready to shut it down. I'll take a few more questions. Charles Workman says, final question. Pepe looked miserable in the second half, cold and wet, jogging. He can't play against smaller, faster backs. Lucas? looks. I don't know what you're saying there. I don't know about that. I think, Pepe's 18 years old, so I think it's hard for us to say like what he can and can't do in this moment. At 18 years old, and the trajectory of his career right now, where it might be the case that by the time the U.S. play another qualifier, he'll be a player or a striker for a European top 5 league team. Pepe can grow by leaps and bounds game by game. So I'm not in a position right now to say like where Pepe looks good and where he doesn't. If he's frustrated at all, I think he's frustrated because he did have an opportunity in the box with the ball at his feet and he kind of scuffed it. All of us know that nothing would have been more amazing than seeing Ricardo Pepe score a goal against Mexico. And he wasn't able to do it, but still the U.S. is able to score. And for that matter, Pepe had a really good game, man. I wouldn't say he's like a fantastic hold-up player, like as good as like a Raul Jimenez and everything like that, but he's really good at those one-touch balls that are played into his feet. And we saw a few times where he was able to kind of flick headers and flick balls into space for other players, and that was tremendous for the U.S. throughout the game. Eric C. brings up a great point. Is it possible we're seeing Greg's progression as a coach? We could be. We could be seeing Greg getting better at it as a coach, but there's also a flip side. There's another like meta narrative out there, and it's just that this squad that Greg has, players like Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, Ricardo Pepi, Tim Weah, Miles Robinson, all these guys didn't have games together. Like they flat out didn't have games together. Like the first real game where we saw like some semblance of our first team was like maybe like the Wales game or the Northern Ireland friendly or something like that. And you guys know that so many of our players have been injured and out for so long that it was just been difficult to get minutes for these guys. And you also have a lot of really young players that have to kind of get bled into this team and get opportunities to gain experience and gain the manager's trust. So it has been a project that's taken a while. And I think we saw the first time we saw that glimpse of the MMA midfield. What was that? That was like against Wales or something like that way back. And then, Yunus Musa's out for a while, and then Tyler Adams is out for a while, and we just never really get to see it again. Weston McKinney misses some games. So whenever we saw the return of that, and then we're finally starting to see like a semblance of a back line together. Players are getting more experience playing together. It's as you compared to this Mexico squad, like how many games have Hector Herrera and Edson Alvarez played together? How many games have they played with Chaca Rodriguez and Irving Lozano and Raul Jimenez? Like these players all have like 20, 30, 40 caps for their national team where they're playing together a lot. The Americans on the flip side, they don't have that much time together, and we're seeing as they get more and more time together, as they solidify, they're getting better and better. Now, at the same time, there are things that Greg is doing better, and at the same time, there are some curious decisions that Greg's making. Like, we finally see that Tim Weah can start over Paul Arriola. Like, thank you. It's about time. We finally see that Yunus Musa can start over Sebastian Lletget. Tremendous. Great progress. Now, we do have that next game coming up against Jamaica, and maybe Greg has some surprises in store for us where he'll disappoint all of us, and the next game we'll be screaming and yelling at Greg all over again. But as of right now, I would like to retreat to my happy place and assume that we're going to see largely the same players in that Jamaica game, and we're going to see largely the same result from that Jamaica game. And I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to choose to look at it that way. But overall, man, I mean, just a great night, guys. I'm going to end it here. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I'll try to put together another video where I really break down this game and show exactly kind of what went down, and some nice moments from the players. But thank you so much. Enjoy this win. Tremendous night in Cincinnati. 2-0, Estados Unidos, el mejor en el mundo. We are the best in CONCACAF. We are the kings of CONCACAF. And Hector Herrera and Edson Alvarez and Chaca Rodriguez, Jesus Gallardo, Tecatito Corona, Raul Jimenez, Memo Ochoa, they're only getting older. They're only getting slower. They're only getting closer and closer to retirement, while the Americans are getting more experience. They're going to bigger clubs. They're having bigger moments. They're getting more time together. They're getting more solidified as a unit. They're putting together chances. They're finishing those chances. We've got guys that are on the shelf right now. We got guys like Joe Scally starting games for Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany that isn't even seeing the field for this team yet. We've got guys like Gianluca Busio, who's bossing the midfield in Serie A for Venezia, who's not even seeing the field for this team. We got a guy in Ricardo Pepi who only has a handful of caps, but has a handful of goals and is about to be a very, very, very well-paid young man over in Europe, and who knows what's going to happen whenever he hits the ground running over there. This team is getting better. We have a player in Chris Richards who is a starter in the Bundesliga for Hoffenheim, a player that's looked at to be potentially one of the top center backs in the world moving forward, and he is not starting for this team, and he could potentially come in and be a big player. We got a player in John Brooks who just played a Champions League game in the Bundesliga and is not on this team that could potentially come in. We've got guys, folks. We've got guys. We've got reserves. We've got a kid in Gio Reyna who's one of the top players that's going to be on the Golden Boy finalist list, a player that I know we haven't seen play in a while, but has the potential to be one of the... I think he's going to be better than Christian Pulisic. I think he's going to be one of the very best players in the world, and he's a player that has not been a part of this national team for a few qualifiers. He can come into this national team. We've got so many players that can come in and impact this squad that aren't even seeing minutes right now. The future is bright, folks. The future is bright, and I think the future is here. 2-0 tonight. The U.S. beat Mexico. A tremendous night where I think we see the pendulum swing, where we see the power in CONCACAF move north. This is 3 games in a row, and I think the most decisive and the hardest one for Mexico to come back from. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you guys for coming in for the live stream. Thank you guys who are watching this video later. Like, subscribe, become a member. This is a wonderful time to be a U.S. Men's National Team fan. The good times are here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. What a night! What a night! The U.S.